Hello everyone, this is Andrea with Nutrition Commission. Toxicity and inflammation, but I'll relate it more specifically to autoimmune. I want to just talk about the importance of understanding how toxicity actually affects our condition or keeps fueling the chronic inflammation and the pain. All right, so let's just frame it as poor diet. So again, most of you might already be down that path of trying to clean up the diet, get off that processed foods and move to whole foods, which is phenomenal. So we'll just kind of frame today's topic around diet, of course, clean diet, and environmental pollutants and exposure. So with that in mind, what we're really talking about here is toxicity can be really thought of as a bunch of, they're immune disruptors, okay? They literally, this could be a little bit too much information, but I just want you to understand. So if we have years and years of, poor diet, or we're on a lot of medications just to manage the symptoms, we're of course exposed to environmental pollutants, etc. These are called, again, the immune disruptors, or what I'll just call triggers. Okay, they're going to be triggers to the immune system when they enter the body. And what's really interesting is our cells. Okay, I hope not to go too into the weeds for you guys, but it's important to understand these triggers will basically set off an inflammatory cascade, a process that the cells go through, which literally releases this, what's called arachidonic acid, okay? And that acid also triggers another reaction that initiates the release of pro-inflammatory compounds, okay? And those pro-inflammatory compounds are what are one of the many different things that are responsible for the chronic inflammation and also joint destruction, which is just fascinating. So when this happens, that's just one little component of what toxicity does to the body, both dietary or environmental pollutants. Okay, so just that element alone can tell you, like, wow, because all of the toxic exposure that we accumulate over our lifetime also gets stored in our belly fat, okay? So anytime we lose weight, even, from people go on those crash diets and they start losing a bunch of weight, the toxins get released out of the belly fat that you're losing. And so that's another recycling of toxicity. So again, the toxic exposure from diet or environmental pollutants. Let me just tell you what I'm talking about. So think about the diet, the benefits of eating organic. Again, we're not 100% without herbicides, I'm sure, in the soil or things that fly through the air, whatever. But the herbicides, the pesticides, fertilizers, pretty much anything that's used to conventionally grow our food is just laced with everything. And then you think about conventional meats, which also are pumped with the antibiotics. Okay, so all of these hormone disruptors and chemical immune disruptors that are used to grow our food, and then of course at the manufacturing plant level, they use a lot of chemicals there, probably to help with throughput, production, and things like that. So at the end of the day, whether you're eating whole foods or you're still dabbling with some processed foods, we're getting a load of chemicals. So that's the piece that clearly, number one, we want to remove as much of that exposure as possible. And that's where we want that organic, fresh diet. And the number one thing that I could say is, a lot of people would say, well, I can't afford it, and I totally get that, because it does get expensive. But you've got some options here. If you haven't looked into, let's say, Imperfect Foods, I think is what it's called, Imperfect Foods. Have you guys heard of that yet? If you give me a thumbs up. That's basically ugly looking produce, heavily discounted. And it's like, who cares what it looks like, because I'm just going to, cut it up and eat it. So that could give you another option. And then there's, of course, Thrive. I think it's called Thrive Markets now. Yep. That gives a lot of healthier, pantry essentials, right? So you can look at that, and that's supposed to be discounted quite heavily now. And I've checked that even the things that I buy, like at Whole Foods, which is not ideal because it is very expensive, or Trader Joe's, now that I go onto Thrive, my like-for-like brands are cheaper on Thrive. So that just gives you an opportunity to start really looking at removing all that toxicity. Now, but let me just spend just a second. When we think about the toxicity and how it releases arachidonic acid from the cells, which triggers compounds that destroy the joints and create more chronic inflammation. But the toxic exposure can also affect our gut health directly. Okay, so they're chemicals, right? So they're being stored as belly fat. They're disrupting the intestinal lining. They're affecting the brain because some of these things can actually penetrate the blood-brain barrier. Okay, so you've got that exposure. You have the liver. You have all these toxic chemicals that also impair the liver's ability to detox. Okay. You have the malabsorption or the malnutrition because, again, it's affecting the gut. Your immune system, 70% is in the GI tract, your immune cells. So once that chemical gets there, it's like, I don't know what to do with this. So it's creating massive inflammation in the lining, which leads to the leaky gut and also gut flora imbalances. So you can see how this just like snowballs. I mean, they're poisons. Okay. So those are all the ways that it really, really messes up our system hormonally, just detox pathways, brain function. I could go on and on. So what I want to give you are, again, just to go back to kind of the dietary tips. Number one was the dietary tips. Let's make sure we have to do 80-20 rule. At the very least, you got to go organic, and you have to find those discount places that you can pick it up, or go to the farmer's market if you're in that type of a environment where that's available to you, or even local co-ops are great. I think you could probably go on Facebook groups and Google some of this stuff, local co-ops, and you might be surprised what you find. I'm also going to say that with some of the research that I've done, as I'm in the process of finishing a final research paper, there's a study that was done on the importance of even making sure your household water is clean. And I discovered this over the last couple of years. Specifically, there's like the trifecta of chemicals like chlorine, fluoride, and bromelain, I think it is, that's found in bread. Those three hormones alone, or chemicals, excuse me, really mess up your thyroid. And then the thyroid, of course, is like the master metabolizer. It's responsible for the pace of your entire body. So what I mean by that is think about the pace in which your liver detoxes. Is it efficient or not efficient? The pace of your lymphatic drainage, the pace of your adrenal, I mean, just everything. So you can immediately see right out of the gate, like, wow, okay, so I swapped out to a non-fluoride toothpaste. I would also recommend that you change out your water filters. There's Berkey filter. I bought that many, many years ago, and I can give a link in the comments here because I am an affiliate even for it, because it's just a very economical way to make sure you're getting clean drinking water that's not also out of plastic jugs that are sitting on a store shelf that probably sat in a warm warehouse and the plastic's leached into the water, right? All of these things actually matter, but specifically to autoimmune disease, this was really fascinating in this study, is that chlorine is specifically linked to chronic fatigue, dermatitis, autoimmune diseases, and it also is proven to weaken the gut flora. And when we weaken the good gut bacteria, that means more inflammation, leaky gut, exacerbating your symptoms of autoimmune. So it's just fascinating. So again, I would really push you towards exploring clean household water. If you can get a shower filter, Berkey filter has them, because I put one on in my place, very simple. to remove the chlorine. I mean, that's a huge step because 80% of our body, of course, is the skin surface, goes right into the bloodstream. So that would be huge with reducing that exposure and helping with your chronic pain and the symptoms of autoimmune disease. Not to mention, again, just toxicity that creates cancer, okay? So it's just the whole big picture around disease. And then again, remove your exposure to the conventional foods. You have to go organic. Sorry, I know. But you got to find a way to make it happen. I mean, it's just the way it is, unfortunately. Unless you can grow your own food, that's great too. But look into Thrive Market. Look into Imperfect Foods, where you can get discounted produce because it's ugly, but it's still organic, so who cares? And local co-ops for farmers markets or even other groups that might be set up that you just don't know about it in your community. So I want to leave you with that today. Kind of was rambling, sorry, but if you have any questions, of course, please let me know in the comment box. But I think I'm trying to leave you with just 2 immediate tips that you need to make sure you check that box. Let's go after those 2 for sure: the diet and the clean household water. Should you have any other questions, I'm available, of course. Just let me know in the comment box. And as always, I'm here for you, and let me know how I can help. All right? Until next time, take care, ladies. Bye-bye.